What's going on YouTube? This is Mark with Flex Marks the Spot. As you can tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be going over the ARES attachment by Rep Fitness. I got it installed here on my PR5000. I've had a couple of weeks to kind of play around with it, try to nitpick it a little bit and kind of put it through the ringer as much as I can. Obviously this is not a full-length review. I went way more in depth on this video than I was originally planning to, so instead of a first impressions, this ended up being a full review, so we'll call this video a review. Right now, this is primarily going to be my first impression and let you know whether or not I think it's worth it, just, based on my couple of weeks of working on it. And yeah, I'll just kind of give you a quick overview and let you know what I think. So what is the ARES attachment? It's an all-in-one cable system that's designed to attach to a Rep Fitness power rack, specifically the PR4000 or the PR5000. The ARES attachment delivers via freight. In my case, it was RL Carriers. They sent me a text message a couple of days in advance saying that they had a order for me from Rep Fitness and that they had like an estimated window delivery time for me and asked me if that was going to work for me. And in my case, it did work. So once I confirmed that with them on the phone, we were all set and good to go. When you receive your ARES, you should keep an eye out for three major components. So first, you'll have the larger wooden crate that you have on the left-hand side of this image. This houses all of the pieces that go into the ARES attachment itself. Then in the smaller crate, this is going to be the second piece you're going to want to look out for during the delivery. This has all of the weights that go on the weight stack. And then lastly, you don't really see it here, but shrink wrapped on the pallet, there is a cardboard tube. It looks very similar to a barbell tube, but this is what houses the guide rods. So these are the three main pieces that you should keep an eye out. Assembling the ARES, I would suggest that you have at least one other person help you out. That'll make things go so much quicker. On top of that, I would probably not go exclusively by the paper instructions that Rep provides. I would follow along with the how to assemble video that they have on their YouTube channel. That's primarily what I did, and that did a pretty good job at getting you most of the way through. The time that'll take you to assemble the unit really depends on whether or not you have someone helping you out. In my case, it took me the entire day, but that was because I had a PR4000 on my main platform, so I had to disassemble that and move it off of the platform. And then I had my PR5000 that I had on the other side of the basement, so I had to disassemble that and move that onto the main platform, and I did all of that by myself. Luckily, my brother was able to come over and help me out for another good portion of the ARES assembly itself, so he was able to help me move all the pieces from the garage down to the basement, and then from there, he was also able to help me assemble the unit up until we got to the cable portion. But if you're not doing a lot of that extra work that I did, I would say you can probably knock it out in maybe like 3 to 4 hours if you're really going at it without any breaks and you have another person helping you out. The only issue I ran into during the assembly process was the top weight on one of the weight stacks not sitting flat. I was able to fix that by taking the floating pulley and adjusting the bolt from the default position down to the hole at the very bottom on both sides. The paper instructions do not show that bottom hole as an additional adjustment position, only the holes above, so that's something that I'm asking Rep about. I'm still kind of corresponding with their customer service on it, but the unit is super smooth and I haven't had any issues with it, so I think it'll be fine, just something they should probably update on the instructions. The most unique feature of this attachment is these outside pulleys that are on the outermost uprights. These adjust up and down, so they function as a functional trainer, and they are adjusted via this pop pin and this knurled handle. You also have a hitch pin here. Although it's not fully necessary, I would recommend that you do use it, just because the pop pin, only goes a couple inches into the upright. So, I mean, I don't think it'll fail. I did play around with it a little bit, not using the hitch pin, but I think this is just, for added security and stability. I didn't notice it was not stable when you didn't use it, but, they designed it to be used with the hitch pin, so I would use it. And as you can see, the hitch pin goes all the way through. You can't really get a good visual here of the pop pin, but it only goes about right here, you know. Obviously, if it went all the way through the upright, it would be a lot harder to adjust. You'd have to pull it out a lot further out as opposed to just this distance here. So just a heads up there. The trolley adjustment mechanism is super smooth. You don't really have any issues going up and down the upright. As you can see, I'm doing this with one hand, holding the camera with the other hand. It's lined with plastic here on the inside, so you don't have to worry about it scratching your uprights while you're sliding it up and down. One thing that you will have to worry about is just make sure that you're really diligent with the pop pin itself. Like if you were to like set it like right here, you can see that it's resting up against the upright, and as you slide down, it sets in. So with that, that does introduce the possibility to scratch your finish on your power rack. So you can see that I have a couple of little scratches here and there, which I mean to be expected here with this type of adjustment mechanism. I personally don't really have a problem with that, just because I kind of had an idea that that would be the case when I signed up for this. I saw the pop pin, and I mean I didn't really see how they would go about preventing this, but even then it feels like it's relatively minor, but this will be something to keep in mind for those of you who like to keep your racks in pristine condition. Another nice addition is the cutout here, so you can see the hole that the pulley is set at, so you can set it quickly and easily on both sides. The pulley on the outside here also swivels a little more than 180 degrees actually. Well, here it's about a right angle, here it's a little bit more. But this gives you a lot of extra versatility that you wouldn't have with a fixed pulley system, kind of like the Slinger in its base form without any additional add-ons. The unit also does come with two of these D handles. I guess this is a urethane, but it feels like plastic. Honestly, these things are pretty bad. I was not a fan of these whatsoever, but Rep Fitness is aware of that, and they I guess apparently are developing their own D handles that they will ship out to customers for free. Here's a screenshot of the owner slash CEO, Ryan, mentioning that on the Home Gym Discord. So let's make sure we hold them accountable on that because these are pretty garbage. This is a premium unit that a lot of people spent a lot on, so you'd expect that they'd at least give you some decent attachments, which they do, but these D handles are pretty bad. The cable travel on the ARES is very, very smooth, which makes sense because the pulleys are aluminum. You have a ton of cable travel as well, so you don't have to worry about that being a limiting factor on any movements. I don't really know of anything that would require more cable travel than this. Because the functional trainer is limited to the width of your uprights, you're obviously not going to be able to get as wide when doing movements like cable flies as you would on a standalone functional trainer, but in my experience, I didn't have any issues performing any cable fly variations. But then again, I'm not the tallest and I don't have the longest wingspan. I'm 5'7", so take that as you will. But otherwise, these felt perfectly fine for me, and I didn't really feel that my range of motion was limited by any means. I'm not going to go into a list of exercises you could do with the functional trainer portion of the ARES because a lot of those will just carry over from a regular functional trainer. But I will say the fact that this attaches to a power rack, it gives you a lot more possibilities, and you can get really creative with the type of movements you can do. So this is just another added benefit of having this unit versus a standalone unit. Next, you have these two fixed high pulleys. These ones are 1-to-1 pull ratios, which means they're great and ideal for lat pull downs, especially when you connect them both like you have here. These ones are connected by this, I think they call it the banana. This is included with the ARES, so you don't have to worry about buying it on the side. So it attaches to both pulleys, and then you can attach your single existing attachments here. So you don't have to worry about buying all new attachments. But if you did want to use a lat pull down bar that's designed to be used with this, Rep's got you covered there. So they have this hard chrome lat pull down bar that was included. It has two attachment points for both pulleys. It's pretty nice. It's hard chrome, I believe. It has a decent little knurling there. It's not super aggressive, but it's probably one of the nicer ones I've used personally. Another cool inclusion is this attachment hanger that you have for like your lat pull down bar. So it specifically fits the included lat pull down bar perfectly. That was a nice addition, especially like when you're first attaching them on, you know, you don't have to worry about the attachment like pulling down on the cables and lifting up the weight stacks a little bit while you're switching out your attachments. Next, you have these fixed low pulleys. These ones are also 1-to-1 pull ratios, so these ones will also be ideal for low row. And they can also be paired together to utilize both weight stacks, similar to the high pulleys above. These ones are a little bit further apart, so you can't use the same banana attachment. These ones have this bar here that has attachment points at both ends, and it also has this middle attachment point, so you can use your existing cable attachments if you have any of those already. This one works okay. The knurling is really similar to the lat pull down bar, but I mean, you'll probably end up wanting to use your own attachments here, since this is not the most ergonomic grip, but despite that, the attachment was nice in itself and works well enough. The included attachments, like I mentioned before, are inconsistent at best. The banana works fine for what it is. The lat pull down bar is pretty solid. It's got a really good build quality. Knurling is okay. Don't really have any complaints with this piece. The low row bar, the build quality is great and solid. Knurling feels decent as well, but it is kind of heavy for what it is. It can get kind of awkward when you're using other attachments, and it's primarily the setup and when you're adjusting in and out with the foot plate. But overall, it's functional, so it's not the worst thing. And then lastly, like I mentioned, the D handles are just straight garbage. Shameless plug time. If you get the ARES, I really recommend getting the Gym Pin D Handle Pro. I think that's what it's called exactly. This is the 30-inch version. I had this prior and I didn't really use it that often with my lat row pull down that I had on my Rep PR 4000, but here on the ARES it has so much more utility. Using it on the fixed high pulleys, you can get your preferred width when it comes to multiple attachments like you have here with the D handles, and you can also use it just replace the banana in general. You also get that included customizability when using it as a low row bar. What I like the most about it is connecting the two outside pulleys so that you can set up a low row that isn't quite as low as the one on the lower fixed pulleys. It's a little bit closer to your chest, or you could adjust it however you want. And then from there, you just connect your attachment of choice and you have a much more intuitive low row that utilizes both weight stacks. And if you do decide to pick this up through Gym Pin's website, be sure to use code FLEXMARKS That'll save you 10% off of your order, and a small percentage will come back to me to support the channel. Next, you have the two weight stacks. So you have a left weight stack and a right weight stack. These stacks correspond with the pulleys of each side. So for example, you have the right adjustable pulley, the right high pulley, and the right low pulley. These ones correspond with the right weight stack, and the same thing is true with the left pulleys and the left weight stack. The stacks themselves are pretty typical. I mean, they're heavy and they are pretty uniform. So like I think it's like they say it's hot rolled steel, which I'm not really sure what the difference is between that and other types of steel, but they seem high quality. Then you have your pin here. So this pin is magnetic, which is nice. It attaches really nicely into every stack. And I mean, I haven't had any complaints with that so far. On top of that, you have these 2.5 adder weights. So they sit on top of the stack, but you can pull them out pretty easily. I mean, they're pretty basic, but I mean, they do the job. The weight stacks go up to 130 pounds individually, but I think there's the upgrade is 50 pounds, which brings them up to like what is that, like 310 or something like that. So you can add another 50 pounds on each side if you so choose. A cheaper alternative to the weight stack upgrade is a gym pin. You just stick it into your weight stack and you use your existing plates. Also, using my code FLEXMARKS to spot will save you 10% off. Again, not something that's necessary to use the ARES, but it could be good to have for some of you out there. But once you kind of get up and close and you really do start assembling this, you really do appreciate the engineering that went into this. It is really like non-intrusive on the rack itself, and it fits really nice with the existing footprint. It really doesn't add too much. So here you have this pulley on the bottom that just barely sits outside of the upright, but even then, you know, it's hardly out there. It is about 1 inch off the ground, so the clearance there is pretty tight with that cable. I've had some people ask if you can deadlift inside the rack. You technically can. The plates will clear the cable, but it's way too close for comfort. I wouldn't do it, but I mean, if you decide to pick this up and you want to try it, that's all on you. The top pulley does add a little bit of extra height on top of the rack itself. I haven't measured that out, but it's really minimal, but you can see even that height is a little under what the multi-grip pull-up bar adds. So if you have that pull-up bar, you don't have to worry about the top pulleys here not clearing your ceiling. And again, here's another look at just some of the engineering that went into this. Everything fits really nicely, and it looks like the design was really thought out. Here are the pulleys at the bottom. Although I do have one complaint from down here. I don't remember which pulley it was exactly. I think it might have been this one that sits right here. This one was an absolute pain to loosen when you're routing the cable through. So rep maybe for version 2, you can make that one a little easier to get to. But otherwise, everything was pretty easy to tighten and loosen, like when you're routing the cable through. One thing I wish Rep would have done with this is I wish the weight stacks would actually be both facing the same way with the numbers facing towards you. I think that could have given you a little extra clearance here. I mean, again, I don't know if that was like a specific design choice, or, you know, if this was kind of the best way to make it work, because I mean, you can see the pulleys they have there, so I'm not sure how the weight stack, both of them facing the other way, would have worked, but it would be nice to have them both facing the same way so you can more easily adjust the weight pins and not have to, you know, go to one side and then the other to do it. But that's only a minor thing. The reason I would have really liked that is because you would get a little bit more clearance back here. So although you do have that little offset, which, you know, allows your feet to stand a little more comfortably when you're facing inside the rack, you do have the cables and guide rods that you get up and close and personal with, which isn't too different from the plate-loaded lat row that I've been using with their PR 4000 prior to this. But if you're using a safety squat bar, those handles will hit the guide rods. You can mitigate that by using like a monolift and kind of setting it out so that the arm is out here. You know, that's a workaround you can do if you really want to face inside the rack. But otherwise, you know, the obvious solution would be to, you know, squat on the front uprights and set up that way. If you did want to squat facing the other way in the on the front uprights, you would need to move the trolley down to the bottom because you do have this cable to work around. So if you try to set a J cup here, for example, you won't be able to set it because you have the cable to kind of work around. You can kind of maybe get under it, but, you know, you don't want to be manipulating that too much. So you would just set the trolley down below, and then from there, that the cable that extends along the upright would be this front one, as opposed to the back one here. So depending on how you're using the front uprights, you will have to, you know, work around this trolley and, move it up and down the upright to fit whatever lift you're doing. Bench pressing on the inside uprights is absolutely fine. You won't have an issue. You have plenty of head clearance in the back. The only thing is you won't be able to use a spotter, or you can, but it'll be a really tight fit back there. But if you're already using reps plate loaded lat row attachment, this actually is not really any different there. The rear base stabilizer didn't really give you that much clearance there, but this, poses kind of the same challenges there. So you can't really get a good spotter back there, but if you set up safety straps or flip downs or pin pipe safeties, you don't really need a spotter as long as you're lifting responsibly. But if you are insistent on getting a spotter, then again, you would just use the front uprights. More than likely, you will not be able to incline press inside of the rack. You might be able to if you have, like a really small bench, but if you have any of reps benches or like any other like decently sized ones, you will not be able to use those front inside uprights, even if you're using a monolift. So you'll have to be using the outside ones there as well. Another minor nitpick is this cable here. You can see like it doesn't sit completely flush with the upright, which is by design. So this actually gives you the ability to use J-cups on the outside, and they clear perfectly for the most part with this cable, so they won't touch them whatsoever. And that's why they spaced this exactly the way they did. But there is a little bit of an issue there, which it's going to be very, very minor if you have a barbell that has like very thin competition style collars. Then your plate could rub up against this cable just a smidge, but more than likely I don't anticipate that being an issue, because if you have collars that thin and you're racking that close to the cable, you'll more than likely hit the front lip of the J-cup before you hit the cable. But there is a very, very small possibility of that happening, but that's only with very specific barbells, and you kind of have to set your bar just right for that to happen. Most barbells that have regular size collars, they don't even have to be that thick. Those ones will be just fine. You'll clear the cable without any issues. One thing I really do like about the ARES is how compact it is. So you can see that the cover here on the weight stack just barely goes outside of the back upright, so you can almost have it completely flush against the wall, which was not possible with the plate loaded lat row attachment that I had on the 4000. That one I actually I'll kind of show a comparison picture here, how far out the 4000 was on my platform versus the 5000 here with the ARES. So I have so much more room for activities here on the platform. So how does the ARES compare to the competition and other comparable solutions out there? The ARES attachment by itself without a power rack is about $2,800, and it can be configured to fit nearly any variation of the PR4000 or the PR5000 V2. The ARES is designed to replace a standalone functional trainer and a standalone lat row cable machine. In this case, we'll be looking at the Costco functional trainer and the Titan lat tower, both of which are considered some of the better budget options out there. So without a power rack, these will run you about $3,000, which is more than the ARES itself without a power rack as well. So you're saving a little bit by getting the ARES, and you also get the cost saving benefits of not having to accommodate two different machines. If you don't already have a Rep Fitness power rack and you want an ARES, adding a PR5000 to that with most of the base configuration items will run you about $4,300. If you wanted to go with the PR4000, that'll save you a little bit as well, but for the sake of this comparison, we'll be using the 5000 other comparable racks. Looking at Rep's biggest competitor, Rogue Fitness, their out-of-the-box solution is the Monster Cave, and that's nearly double the price at $8,000. One of the more popular all-in-one solutions is the Prime Prodigy HLP selectorized rack. In this case, this is more expensive than an ARES and a power rack. You do not get a 1-to-1 pulley ratio on any of the pulleys. It has a super long lead time. It's only a half rack, so you don't get as much versatility outside of the pulleys. And lastly, it is not as configurable as the ARES is, with all the different heights, widths, and whether or not you want to use like a PR 4000 or 5000 as the base rack. Next, you have the Force USA X15 half rack and the X20 full rack. With these ones, they are only functional trainers, and their pulleys are 2-to-1 ratios. So if you were to use them as a low row or a lat pull down, there's a good chance you will max out the weight. On top of that, they don't have 4-way hole spacing like most of the other racks that we're comparing here, so they're not as compatible with other attachments from other companies. And if you were to go the full route option here, it is more expensive than an ARES as well. Next, we have these smaller companies that popped up during and post-COVID, like Bolt Fitness. Here we have the Warlord rack. This one is a little bit cheaper than the ARES. It's actually more comparable to the Athena, which is another rep cable solution that we'll look at next. But the Warlord here is only a functional trainer, so you don't get the lat row attachment that you do on the ARES. Also, this rack is super tall, so if you have a shorter ceiling, you won't be able to use this, so it's not configurable whatsoever. And lastly, with this being kind of a newer company, we don't really know how reputable they are, how long they'll be around to warranty if something goes wrong with it. I have seen some horror stories online with people and Bolt Fitness specifically, but I've never bought anything from them, so I cannot say for sure. But yeah, I know this one's one of the more popular ones that people throw around online, so figured I'd mention it here as well. Lastly, we have the least expensive option, the Athena rack attachment for Rep Fitness racks. So this is very similar to an ARES, except you don't get the dedicated lat pull down low row station. So if you want to have the middle of your rack open, this could be a good option. You are going to be limited, however, by the amount of weight you can use. You will probably max out a single side of the weight stack. You can pair both of the pulleys together similarly with the other racks as well, but it's not the most intuitive setup. And even though it can be done, I personally prefer a dedicated station with 1-to-1 pulley ratios because it just feels a lot smoother, and it's less time to set up. There are other less expensive options out there. I only took the more popular ones for the flagship 3x3 post 1-inch hole and hardware power racks. And when we're looking at those, the ARES is head and shoulders above the competition when it comes to functionality, value, and space saving. So at the end of the day, I absolutely think the ARES attachment is worth it, especially if space is at a premium in your gym. You're maximizing the amount of utility you have in just the footprint of your rack, and you're really not losing very much functionality with your power rack itself. So you can continue to build on top of your rack, have most of your other attachments function, just fine. Obviously, the ARES is not perfect, and there are some limitations. You are going to have to, do some workarounds, but that's kind of the nature of an all-in-one machine. But I think the ARES does a great job in really minimizing some of those issues, and overall, like, you're pretty much getting the best of all worlds with very, very minimal compromise, in my opinion. But the ARES itself, it's kind of the all-in-one solution that I think anyone that picks it up will be happy with. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you found this helpful and you decide to pick up an ARES, please consider using my affiliate links. It helps my channel, and I can try to put out more content and similar to this to help out with future purchases. So thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe.